All right, I call the April 16th meeting of the school committee to order, and I see Sarah now on the Zoom. Let me just make her a co-host so that we know she can speak when she's ready. Okay, we're going to have one member remotely this evening, so I'm going to do a roll call for everything this evening. Jeffrey?
Here.
Laura?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
Sarah? Sarah, that's probably our volume here. Try that one more time.
She's muted. There you go.
Yeah.
Yep.
There you go, and Sean is here, and I believe Aaron will join us midstream. So, all right, so let me just do a quick review of the agenda, and then we'll jump in. We'll start with public comment for anything that is not on our agenda this evening. We'll have our focus on excellence, the consent agenda, reports, and then in the new business section, we've got folks here to join us for the youth health survey results for this year. We're going to have a presentation and discussion about our executive functioning review. We will approve the formal last day of school for this school year. We'll have a vote to appoint at least an interim vice chair to get us through the end of the year. And then we'll have a discussion with no vote, but a discussion to determine whether and how to move forward on some potential changes for policy GBD, which is school committee and staff communications. So that is our agenda for this evening. We will start with public comment. So if anybody here is not here for Winter Guard or any of those other things we just talked about and wants to speak to anything not on the agenda, now's your chance. As I expected. All right. So let's then begin with our focus on excellence. And Dr. Milcheski, I'll hand it to you.
Great. We are absolutely thrilled tonight to be joined by our Winter Guard, MHS Winter Guard team behind us, who are the 2026 NESBA state champions. Extremely lucky to have you with us tonight. Really proud of your accomplishments. A few things I just want to share. First, this is the program's return back since 2023, and then to mark it back for the first time with a state championship is incredible. I had a custodian come up to me the other day to mention, they said they had heard that they were state champions. I just want you to know, I'm not surprised to hear that given the amount of time that the team is in our schools rehearsing late at night, practicing late at night, and constantly striving for perfection. So I just know that you put in a ton more time than people may see, and people may see the state championships, but just know people in our communities, many have recognized the amount of time, effort that you've poured in to making this level of success possible. So we would just like to congratulate you on your accomplishments and thank you for your model of excellence and dedication in our community. So with that, we'd love to hear from members of the team. Introduce yourselves, share a little bit about, sort of what happened this past season and sort of what may have led to the 2026 state championship.
Thank you so much. I am Ariana. I am co-captain of the Color Guard.
I'm Alexandra. I'm captain of the Color Guard. These are.
I'm Isabella.
I'm Callie.
I'm Elizabeth.
I'm Amanda.
I'm Penny.
I'm Anna.
I'm
Autumn. We are really happy to be here. Thank you for having us. We've had a really awesome season, and it's been really awesome, especially because with our guard, this is probably a pretty big guard for us. And we've definitely been able to learn a lot this season, especially with our new coaches this year, which has just been really awesome to get to know each other and get to know the coaches better, especially with just all the new things happening. And I think, especially for me, I got to learn so much, and it was just something that really helped me with like teamwork and just really getting to know the sport that I love. So it was just really cool for that.
Yes, our new coaches really helped us grow, and especially with all the new members in the group. We had, how many?
I think five new members, I believe.
Yeah. Who'd never touched a flag before, never done dance or anything, and they all have grown so much, and it's really been amazing to see how everyone's grown.
Is there anything you guys have to add? I'm putting you on the spot.
Delight in terror.
But yeah, no, this season has been really, really awesome, and I think most of us do know each other from school and otherwise, but I think without the sport, it wouldn't be the same. I've definitely really gotten to know these guys a lot, so it's been really, really cool.
So we know that state championships are like the highest level of excellence and achievement, and it's rare in our community to achieve this level of prestige in receiving a state championship. I'm also floored to hear that almost the team is entirely freshmen and sophomores. So in sports, you're usually hearing teams are the senior-laden teams. They're the ones that are the ones winning titles. I'd love to hear from you from the element of leadership. How is it that the team came together, maybe without what would be a typical makeup of a team with upperclassmen, leadership, members who have been through different competitions and battles to then be in a position with such a young team? I'd love to hear just like that, the piece of leadership and how your team came together and navigated that.
I think we all took our knowledge from the marching season and implemented what we already knew about music and performance, and we took that into this season. And then the coaches also really helped harness that performance aspect that everyone brought in from marching.
Yeah, and I think especially with our new coaches, it was just really interesting to see the different ways they were able to teach us that, not that the fall coaches didn't, but the way that they both, we were able to use both the skills that we learned from each season and kind of use them to create something totally new. And I think that's what really helped, especially me when, this is our second year of being captains, which was really cool and a really awesome experience, just learning in general. But I think it really helped us come together when it came to being as a team, but also as friends, when we were able to use all those skills that we learned. And I don't know, I think that just really helped us in general.
So I'll just say, my introduction to the Winter Guard was accidentally kicking you out of the Wood End Gym late one Tuesday evening when there was a little bit of a scheduling mix-up. But even in just that couple minutes, I could tell that story later, but even in just that couple minutes, it was obvious how intense and focused your preparation was. So I'm just really pleased to see it rewarded with a state championship. So congratulations to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hold up your nice plaque so we can see it. Beautiful.
Awesome. All right, so before you go, we do have a tradition, which you may find slightly or incredibly embarrassing, of taking a picture with us here at the front, if you don't mind, before we let you go.
No, that's true. Is there anyone to take that role? Looking forward to a repeat.
Oh.
I could tell who Steph's daughter was.
And we think the team will be back next year, round 2, right?
All right, and let's move to our consent agenda. I can entertain a motion from anybody who would like to make one.
Sean, I have a couple requests on the consent agenda. I need to ask that 4 things be removed from it. The 2 minutes that I was not present, part of the school committee for, as well as the PSST donation and the robotics field trip due to my volunteer involvement.
Why don't we take it as a full item and just have you just recuse from the vote, unless
Okay.
we have a quorum issue with passing it, I suppose.
We have 4 of us, so we don't have.
Yeah,
a
we
quorum.
should be good, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll move to approve the consent agenda?
Is there a second? Seconded by Laura. So Dr. Corum will be, I guess I'm going to call you Jeffrey in these meetings, if that's okay? So I used to call you Dr. Corum when you're out there, but now I feel like, all right. So Jeffrey will be recusing from this one because he's got, connections to one of them and wasn't here for a couple of those meetings as well. All right, so with that, let's move to the vote. Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Sarah? Yes. And Sean, yes, that passes. Thank you, everyone. All right, let's move to reports. Dr. Milichewski, I'll start with you.
No report.
No report, okay. Dr. Stice, I'll start with you.
I have a report. I actually just want to start by highlighting our amazing students in Reading. Dr. Hardy and I had the amazing opportunity to be at Arts Fest last night and introduce the final 3 jazz bands, and it was absolutely terrific to listen to everybody. We have amazing students and staff, and we wanted to just do a huge thank you to Andy Mullen for his leadership and his passion for the arts. It was a wonderful experience, and we're really proud of that in Reading. I also wanted to just talk a little bit about our Embark program at the elementary school. We currently have 2 locations, one at Birch and one at Wood End. And next year, our kindergartners are going to transition from Rise to Wood End. There are a lot of great reasons, but one is that the kindergarten classrooms at Wood End are inside, not in mods, and that they have an enclosed playground, and for some of our kiddos, it's just going to meet their needs a little bit better, so we're working on that. The other thing I wanted to highlight is we've actually been working with someone from the 321 Foundation. Her name is Ariel Clemmer, and they are for advances in education and cognitive development on students with Down syndrome. They've come and observed at Wood End, Birch, and Coolidge. They've actually done some training for us last Friday, and one of the huge highlights is when she got to be in some of the classrooms, she actually said our inclusion practices were a model for other districts. So we're really proud of that, and we're going to continue to do that work. We're also doing a book study with our Embark staff. They are all reading a book called Meaningful Inclusion for Students with Down Syndrome, and not only are the special ed staff reading it, but the general ed staff and the para educators are, and working on having a consistent implementation. And the last thing I just wanted to mention while we're talking about book studies, you'll probably hear about this, but Jackie Pelusi has been doing Anxious Generation book studies, and Stoneham is actually asked to join our book studies. Over 100 staff have participated and 27 families. We're making really good connections, and I just wanted to highlight that coming together of different communities.
Dr. Hardy?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I wanted to provide you just with a brief update on the recent Student Opportunity Act SOA Plan progress report that I filed with DESE. As you may remember, this is a plan that we write every 3 years, and when we write it, we look at very closely at our data to identify any groups of students in our district that might be falling behind other students. In our plan that we wrote 2 years ago now, we identified students with disabilities, multilingual learners, and our Black and African American students. In the plan, we also identify these evidence-based practices. So in the progress report, we provide DESE with our progress on those evidence-based practices. A lot of the things that are in that report are things we've presented already to you at school committee. Some of the work you're going to hear about tonight with executive functioning, the curriculum review in-depth report that we gave you in January, and the work that we've been doing with early literacy and using EduClimber to track our interventions. So all of those things are examples of the work that's happened in alignment with those evidence-based practices. We also share with DESE early indicators that we're seeing that these initiatives are starting to make a difference for our students. I'll just share a few quick facts with you that we're excited about. When we look at chronic absenteeism for our ML students, we have dropped that number. We had 29% of our ML students that were chronically absent. We've dropped that number to 12%. So pretty significant gain for us right there. The other thing is that this year, we're really pleased with what we're seeing in our middle school ELA classrooms, the alignment of teachers in their practices and their instructional materials. Really the first time that we've seen that in our middle school classroom. So that, again, is fruit of this work. We also report to DESE any early indicators that we're seeing in our student data. As you may remember from our MCAS presentation back in October, there were some shimmers of hope in there that we were starting to see that in our, especially in our elementary grades 3 through 5 MCAS, that we started to see some gap closing for our Black and African American students and even our students with disabilities. Another piece that I was very thrilled to include in this report was our most recent DIBELS results, our middle of the year DIBELS results. We saw that our Black students increased year over year by 8.5%, and our students with disabilities by 5.5%, and our MLs by 10%. This was really good. Our general population of students improved by 2.5%. Overall, our student results look really strong in DIBELS. When we look at all of our students across K to 3, we have 83.6% of our students meeting or exceeding the benchmark. So really outstanding results. So just to let you know the next steps, we have submitted the report to DESE. We are waiting for them to approve it. As soon as they do, we will send the full report off to you, the school committee, to review. We will also post it on the website for families to have access to as well.
Great.
That's all.
Okay, any questions?
I was going to ask for it to be sent to us, but she said we've always been missing, so.
Send it to you now, you know, pending any changes. I don't anticipate any, but happy to send it now.
If you don't mind, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Little light weekend reading.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, let's move to liaison reports. Jeffrey, I suppose you're probably,
Yeah, I guess we need to decide what my liaison will be.
Yeah,
But I do have a couple of comments. I wanted to second Dr. Stice's comments about the great Arts Fest last night, not only the performances, but also the artwork. And thank you to the art teachers who spent a lot of time picking those out and pinning them up, you know, on Main Street. Also, I saw Dr. Hardy on Monday. We were at the Metco Advocacy Day at the State House, so, you know, asking for, you know, more support from the federal, from the state government. Rich Haggerty came out and met with us, took a break from the committee meeting he was in the middle of. Our other two representatives are retiring this year, so, you know, our senator and representative. So they didn't come out to meet with us, but I'm sure they're busy wrapping things up. That was a great day, and you know, as we know, the you know, oil prices going up is not helping the transportation budget for bringing those students out of Boston, particularly, you know, if you look too at the late buses that have really helped them be part of the after-school activities.
great. Laura,
No report.
Tom,
Small report, I guess. People may know this already, but just so everybody does, the select board appointed or elected their new chair and vice chair. So Melissa will be the chair, and Karen Rose Gillis will be the vice chair. So hopefully that helps with the tenor and tone of the committee.
they also signed Jane to a 3-year contract, I believe, since our last meeting as well.
That's true,
So,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, we've had, the meetings have been so sporadic, right
Well,
now, it's hard to say when they lasted.
it's fair. Sarah, anything on your end?
Just the news, and I'll make sure we get this out as well. We haven't posted that RCTV appointed new executive director as well, so I haven't had the opportunity to meet Karina, but I will be in the coming days.
Sarah, has she formally started? Do you know the timeline on that? Okay, great. And I have nothing else. So let's move to new business, and we will start with the presentation on youth health survey results. Eric, I believe, and Principal Callahan, I think that is you. Let me relocate.
Yeah, I'll take this one.
It's going to show up. It's
I think we're gonna sit.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do we need the laptop?
You can either have a laptop, or you can throw spirit fingers, or just
Yep.
say click ahead, or
Okay,
whatever's,
perfect.
whatever's easier.
I'll have mine just
I'll
like-
share here in just a second.
You might need to make yourself
take it?
a host or co-host.
No, I think
It should already be. Right.
Good evening, everyone. I am Erica Maillet, the director of the Reading Coalition for Prevention and Support. I know many of you, but it's nice to meet those that I haven't met so far. My role has been as a member of the data action team, and I typically am part of the dissemination of the results, so that's why I was asked to be with you tonight, and I'll let Principal Callan in.
Oh, I'm Jessica Callahan, the high school principal. I think everybody knows me.
So Tom, do you want to provide some opening remarks before we get rolling?
Sure. So just a quick bit of context, as the committee knows, this process started for us actually back in October, when we had started going through what would be sort of our process for how we would go about both survey administration, survey questions, intent of the survey, how the data would be used. So this was something that, as the committee knows, our team, coalition, administration, other community partners took a lot of time to go through and make sure we went through as thoughtfully as possible. So tonight you'll see the results and the product of that. But I'd also just like to upfront thank the coalition. You should see here throughout the 40 slides that there is you'll see how the coalition is impacting our schools, but I'd just like also to know, if you walk around our schools, you'll see, leaders in the coalition constantly with our students, with our staff, impacting our district. So just a huge thanks to the coalition for your continued impact in our schools, and also thank you to everyone who was a part of this process, the YHS process, who's not with us tonight.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, we will get rolling. Next slide, please. So Dr. Milashevsky and the data action team did ask me to tell you a little bit about how the coalition is involved in the district. We've had a long-term relationship, in terms of the work we do. I've been here for 18 years. I was the first director and I guess the only director thus far. So I've had the privilege to kind of grow our relationship, and the superintendent's team, the principal, the middle school principals across the district, people like Jackie Pelusi are amazing partners for the coalition. So just wanted to share a few highlights and introduce our staff a little bit. So next slide, please. So some of the folks that you may see around the schools, Jasenia Cruz is our outreach coordinator. She spends a lot of time in classrooms working with Michelle Hopkinson, teaching our teen mental health first aid program. She also does screening for our students. She is a Rocket Leaders in Action advisor, as well as a liaison to METCO interns for Beat the Odds, which is an organization in Boston. She's done a lot of collaboration and mentoring to support students. Tanya, one of our licensed clinicians, she's our public safety clinician. She sees students across our school district for therapy. She also provides guidance and support for staff that might want to talk through cases, and she also does training. And then our newest person to the team is Irene Griffin. She's a licensed mental health counselor. She's with us 16 hours a week, and her role is as a child adolescent clinician. She's been seeing students at both middle schools, starting to see elementary students as well as high school students. So next slide, please. So some of the resources that are allocated specifically to the district is our interface referral service, which is a matchmaking service to get families connected to credentialed mental health providers. One of the biggest challenge in our current mental health system is accessing appropriate providers for the need that folks are looking for. So we contract for that service. 89 families in the past year from Reading Public Schools, including METCO families, have accessed the service. So we think that that's another tool for people to get support. We do provide brief free therapy for our clinicians, offering that to students. They provide up to 8 sessions, and then connect families to longer-term services. We provide funding for the Embrace clinicians, which are our bilingual clinicians. That's a contracted service through the health office and working with multilingual students. We also provided funding to increase the health educator in the middle school to a full-time position. You all accepted the funds. We're so excited, and Taylor's been just doing an amazing job with students. And then we also have funded 11 mini grants for student leaders. And their ideas for the mini grants came out of last year's listening sessions, which I'll touch upon. Next slide, please. We also have our Rocket Leaders in Action Peer Leader Club. We offer teen mental health first aid, workshops. We do the chemical health education program for any students that might have a violation. In addition to the discipline that's provided by the school, we provide additional support and coaching and resources and clinical services to get young people back on track. And then we also offer professional development for staff, as well as a new program called Mental Health for Coaches that we're rolling out this spring. Next slide, please. So we are going to dive into the data. So I'm going to describe a little bit about the data process that brought us here. This is our 2025 Youth Health Survey. So like Tom mentioned, we started this process in 2023, 2024 in preparation for last spring data collection. Next slide, please. So the major survey partners, I am kind of the liaison between the district, our partners on the other side of the survey process. So we have a funder that has funded the survey for this cycle, Mystic Valley Public Health Coalition. We are part of a 6-community network, including Winchester, Reading, Stoneham, Medford, Malden. But together, we received funding for our specific youth health surveys, which made a huge difference. JSI is the survey consultant. They were contracted through the Middlesex League to provide survey consulting services for our specific communities. And then the district, of course, makes the ultimate decisions on what happens with the survey. Next slide, please. So as you know, we've been doing the survey since 1990, so it goes back quite a ways. And the importance of the survey is really a pulse check every 2 years of where we are to kind of assess population-based data. We are not asking for names. This is all anonymous data. We're trying to get a pulse check in a given time about specific health behaviors. It's really essential for improving student health and looking at areas that we need to work on, areas that we might be doing well in, really supports the school improvement work that the principal is doing and across the school. Overall, survey data that we've collected historically has helped us raise an enormous amount of grant funding to come into the district. I know for the coalition itself, our 10-year grant, which was $125,000 a year for 10 years, was in part able to happen because of the data. Many grants require the youth survey data in order to even apply. So it's important to know that, and they want to be able to track your performance over time. Another big one is the school climate grant that we had for 5 years. That was another big opportunity that we got. In addition to the data, this is one piece. We also have done listening sessions, key informant interviews, and also worked with students on projects using the data. So this is just kind of one piece of the pie. Next slide, please. Our data action team, our superintendent, assistant superintendents, Hardy and Stice, as well as Principal Callanan and our middle school principals, and also me consulting with our partners in the other communities to kind of gather information and get the pulse of some of the other trends that were happening. We looked at all of the survey options over the course of 6 months before kind of zeroing in on what our choices were going to be. We looked at student needs. We looked at parent feedback from the previous cycle. We looked at protective factors. What are those areas where young people need to be strengthening? And then also what were the risk trends? We decided on a specific set of questions. We had different questions than some other communities. I want to be very clear about that. If you look at another survey from another community, that may not be close to what we've asked. We made specific modifications based on what our data action team felt was best for our students. And I'm proud of that. I think that we had a great conversation. There was a lot of back and forth. We probably drove the survey consultant a little over the edge with all of our changes, but you know, down to the letter, down to the period. But I think we ended up with a really strong survey. So just important to kind of know we really personalized to our own community. Next slide. Did we do that one? No.
Did it go
Okay.
backwards?
Gotcha. So one of the things that we added over the last couple cycles was a skip pattern that allows students who say no to a behavior to skip through the next set of questions. If they say yes to a behavior, then we might want to ask more detail. So I wanted you to know that for some students, they may have only answered 40 questions because of the skip pattern. And students have said that that has been helpful. And then for the students that say, yes, we are getting good quality data on kind of the additional questions that pop down for them. We did develop parent communication materials, made sure that we shared all of that information. We had an updated online opt-out procedure to make it easy for parents to opt out, ask questions. Worked with Principal Callanan and her team to roll out the survey, train the survey proctors, and then inform students about the language options. So for the past 2 cycles, students have been able to take it in multiple languages if they so wished. Our most popular languages this cycle were Spanish and Portuguese. And then we explained to students that they are not required to answer every question. They can skip anything that they want to. And also for any sensitive topics, there is a pop-up for each section that provides resources. Next slide, please. So before we get into the data, I just want to kind of remind folks that any of the youth behaviors you see reflect our current values, norms, and pressures that we have in our society. Our young people are a reflection of what is happening in our community and in our nation, and it's important to kind of make sure we keep that in mind as we look at the data. the experience of young people is happening whether we ask about it or not. And some of this stuff as adults can be hard to like wrap our mind around sometimes. So I just kind of want to make sure that we remember this is their world. They're letting us into it to kind of know a little bit more about what's going on. Next slide, please. Oops. So I want to talk a little bit about kind of generational attributes. With Gen Alpha, we're seeing, you know, a lot of strong attributes that I think sometimes gets lost in some of the negativity that kind of filters around our teenagers. In the work that we do, we see amazing young people. We see so much cool stuff. And I think one of the things that I've seen a lot of is not just social consciousness, but entrepreneurial spirit, like young people who want to do things, create things, their resiliency, their resourcefulness, their independent thinking, you know, that they will challenge things. And I think those are important skills. We know with Gen Z, they had early tech fluency, they're creative and visual learners, very environmentally aware. These are all really positive things. When we look at some of the challenges on the next slide, we know that, you know, we are struggling a little bit with device reliance, which can kind of stifle their growth. Content can be fast. Digital safety and privacy have become really significant issues. And we're seeing the impact of.
I don't think it.
I wasn't sure if you actually wanted the next slide, or was just saying.
Sorry. I was on my roll.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Keep rolling.
Thank you. I wanted to point out with Gen Z, what we're seeing as they transition into young adulthood is that the mental health challenges have become a bit more difficult. The academic and financial stressors become a little bit more real. The amount of student debt that young people are carrying as they get into college, and job instability, that things may not be the way that they pictured it. And I think that's important to know because they're the closest generation to our current generation, and they're hearing things and seeing things, and they're grappling with all of that. Next slide, please.
Got it this time.
All right. We can keep going. All right, so for the survey sample, this is just summary of key findings. We have lots of more data, so we really just tried to summarize it for you. After data cleaning, the final sample for 2025 for grades 9 through 11 was 651 students. In 2023, it was 642 students, so we have relatively good sample comparisons. We did not include grade 12 due to internship timing again, which has been our challenge, but we're gonna keep working on trying to get it a little bit earlier. We did not include regional, state, or national comparisons because we are only comparing grade 9 through 11, and other comparisons include the whole sample. And not all students answered every single question because of those skip patterns. Next slide, please. So some things to be really excited about. 3 areas of really significant progress. More students reporting enhanced safety behaviors, more students reporting really strong connections to trusted adults. I'm going to show you that slide and you're going to get really excited about it. And then healthier daily routines, which we've been working on so much. And I know parents are working on it and young people are working on it. It's hard. This is really hard stuff. So we're seeing a lot of that going in an upward trajectory. Next slide. So some of the wellness behaviors, again, we ask a lot of questions, but one of the ones I was really excited about was having a trusted friend. When we talk a lot about relationships, we often think about, we want to make sure young people have a trusted adult, and that's really important, but having a friend that they can go to if they're worried or dealing with something, or someone to have fun with. So for this year's number, we are up 7 percentage points, which is exciting. And then you can also see that in the other safety behaviors or participation, we're also in a good place. So with the data that I'm presenting tonight, when I show a change, we're talking about percentage points, just so you kind of have an idea. That's typically how we compare between survey cycles. Next slide. So one of the areas that we're proud of everything. We have strong exercise behaviors. We have a lot of young people that are working part-time or volunteering. We have more young people that are managing stress in a healthy way. One of the areas that I constantly am trying to work on, I know our director of nutrition is working on it, our teachers are encouraging, but eating breakfast just to get their day off to the best start that they can. And I think that has been better since the breakfast program has come in, having the breakfast cart in the high school. A lot of young people have commented on the breakfast cart being a huge help, and on also being able to get food throughout the day. And then another piece is healthy sleep. So if you look at middle school data, in grade 6, they're getting about 8 to 10 hours of sleep regularly. By the time they're getting to high school, only 41% are getting 8 hours. So again, that becomes challenging in a lot of different ways. Next slide. So this is the slide I'm most excited about, and I give a lot of credit to Jess and the work that she's done in her school and her team to really move this needle in a positive direction. Trusted adult at school is one of the strongest indicators of a protective factor for any school district, and we are now at 87%. That's up 20 percentage points since our last survey. And that's not an easy thing to do. During COVID, we were at 47%. And we've been fighting our way back since then, you know, for obvious reasons. There was a lot of disconnection at that point. But it takes a really strong team. It takes the teachers, it takes the paras, it takes the librarian, it takes everybody that works in this school. And I think that's a number to be like super proud of. And also huge credit to our families. That went up 19 percentage points, and trusted adult in the community also went up. So these are really amazing numbers. There are some communities in Massachusetts that these numbers hover at 30. So this is not easy stuff. Next slide. So for any of the questions that relate to things that may be upsetting behaviors or behaviors where something might be happening to a young person, we're asking for a young person's perception of their experience. So they're reporting on what they perceive to be what happened to them specifically. So that's what you see reflected in the slide kind of summary, which is questions that were around social media posts. So 17% said that they were upset by something that was posted about them. The reason we asked that question is we now know that that kind of stuff carries through their whole life, right? That is down 6 percentage points since 2023. I think young people are starting to learn how to set boundaries for themselves around shutting down things, not looking at certain threads, kind of paying attention to their own kind of well-being when they're online. We did see a slight increase in being bullied online. 11% perceived that they were bullied online. That's up 3 percentage points. And then when we look at were you bullied at school, their perception of that, 11% said that they experienced that at school, but that is down 5 percentage points.
And this was in the last year, right? Is that question?
Yeah, the question is in the last 12 months, did you experience any of these things? Yeah. Next slide. So there's another set of questions that ask young people if they perceive they were treated unfairly for specific characteristics. So in this area, there's kind of 4 major categories: gender, sexual orientation, religion, or race and ethnicity. So you can see in the top 3 areas, we saw declines. In race or ethnicity, it did remain steady at 5%. These are areas that there's a lot of work happening around, and it's also something that we are talking about in their listening sessions to get more detail and information on specifically what are the areas that young people feel bothered by, what is upsetting, all of that kind of stuff. Next slide. There's also a set of questions on exposure to unsafe experiences. So that could be if young people are in a dating relationship, did they experience a form of dating violence? So of the young people that reported dating, 1% reported physical assault. That is down from 2023. Sexual coercion affected 6%. And the way that gets reported is a young person who felt like they did not give consent. And then 3 to 5% said they were unsure. And that comes up quite a bit, is young people not being sure what their boundaries were, or if they were impaired, not being sure about what happened to them. And then 7% of daters experience emotional abuse. That is down from 10%. Next slide. This area is sometimes a little hard for adults to really kind of take a peek at, but it is what they're experiencing. 14% experienced some type of sexting behavior where they either sent or received sexual messages, including images. That is down from 27%. There's a lot of work being done around that. I think young people are also learning for themselves to be safer. One of the areas that we want to get more education about is actually meeting people in real life. 3% of students said that they met an adult stranger they did not know in person, that they actually initially met online. That is down from 5%, but the meetups tend to be around 3 areas. It's a friend, they're dating, or want to date, or access to a substance, getting someone to buy something for them. And this is typically all happening over Snapchat. Next slide. So we have made some significant progress on mental health challenges. As you know, this is always an area that we're paying very close attention to as it affects a young person's whole life. We asked questions in the past month, have you experienced any of these mental health challenges? For anxiety, that is down, depression symptoms are down, non-suicidal self-injury, which can be cutting, burning, scratching, that is down. Suicidal ideation, having thoughts of suicide is down, making a plan is down. Suicide actual attempts hasn't changed. That typically, when we look at the national data, that is as accurate as it is. It's between 1% and 2% for suicide attempts across the nation for this age group. Of those who make an attempt, only about 0.5% actually are injured. So just important to kind of know. Anything else to add on that? Okay, next slide. In terms of underage substance abuse, these questions are specific to the past month because we want to get the most accurate kind of picture of their current use. Marijuana use did drop from 12% down to 5%. Vaping also dropped, yay. Vaping on school property also dropped. And again, that goes back to our administration being very diligent and our school resource officer. No changes on using alcohol in the past 30 days. Prescription drug misuse, using a prescription that's not prescribed to you to get high is steady. And then our big area of concern is of the young people that reported underage drinking, they reported binge drinking, 5 to 7 drinks in a couple hours. So that is an area we're keeping a close eye on. Next slide. We also asked young people how easy is it to access the substances you're trying to get. Almost all access is happening on Snapchat. Other than prescription drugs, sometimes that is still happening in the home. People, stealing medications. But the most easiest thing to access is typically alcohol, followed by vaping and marijuana. Next slide. So we are really making trends in perception. Perception is one of the areas that we know trickles down to actual behavior. So the more we see young people and parents and students and their peers understanding that using substances is not great for them, the better the numbers go in terms of actual behavior. So we had increased disapproval of alcohol use by friends and caregivers going in the right direction. We had declines in vaping and marijuana use, reducing the on-campus supply. We do need to work on young people's perception. So they're overestimating their peers to be using 3 to 7 times higher than the actual use. So if you're in a circle where a couple people use, you might think everyone uses. And young people on the outside of that circle might think, oh, that's what they do, and so I need to do it. And it kind of grows. And in reality, it's a smaller proportion of young people actually misusing substances. We're concerned about binge drinking because that increases the risk for alcohol poisoning. We do cover that area in the health classes to talk about the risk for alcohol poisoning, the Good Samaritan law, and things that young people need to do to take care of themselves. But there's about 62 students within that binge drinking category that we need to keep an eye on in terms of those behaviors. Next slide. Sugar and energy drinks, things our nutritionist isn't thrilled to see. So about 38% reported drinking sugar or energy drinks daily. This is down slightly. Of that 38%, 6% are drinking those drinks 3 times daily. We're concerned about that for a number of reasons. The biggest thing is changes to the heart rate, the nervousness that can come, and then also the crash that can come with energy drinks. Next slide. And I think, when we talk to young people about what's actually in the products that they're using, they're not always aware of how much is in there. I had a student, lovely student, who showed me her Stanley and said, do you think it's too much if I'm drinking a whole Stanley of energy drinks a day? And I was like, yeah, let's work on that. And she was just kind of putting them all in at the beginning of the day, and that was 5 energy drinks. So that would be like 1,000 milligrams of caffeine. So, it's just something that they may not be realizing, right? And we all use caffeine in many ways as adults, and it affects the teen brain slightly differently. So something to keep an eye on. Next slide. Unhealthy weight behaviors, so we do ask questions to understand potential eating disorder behaviors. And then in 2023, we asked more specific questions. Areas that we're always concerned about is any bulimic behaviors, binge eating, anorexia. And then one of the areas that has been a worry for the past few cycles has been increase in fasting. So the fasting question is, have you fasted in the last 24 hours, not intermittent fasting where it might be periods. This question was not asked during a religious fasting time as well, so just so that you all know. So it's an area that we want to pay attention to, especially for their own safety. Next slide. In terms of intimate behaviors, we do ask students questions about their sexual health, in part because there are areas that really put them at high risk. We did ask young people if they had had sexual contact or sexual intercourse. Of those that answered those questions, we asked about protection. We asked about if they were impaired by alcohol or drugs, because we often see that consent lines are crossed if they're impaired. And then we also ask at what age did that sexual contact occur. And it's always an area that's difficult to see, that 5% of young people that were sexually engaged actually were under the age of 12, and that is childhood sexual abuse. That is a decline from the previous data cycle. Next slide. But I think it's important to kind of level set where we are in our country with this particular issue. Every 9 minutes, a child in the US is sexually assaulted. Victims do not often report abuse. They often know their abuser, and victims are 4 times more likely to develop addiction, and it's a huge source of trauma. It's a small percentage of young people, but it is, a quiet part of what they're dealing with. So I think it's just important for people to know that it's not always what you think of when you think about sexual activity in young people. Next slide. We also asked young people, what are you learning in health class? What kind of material are you getting? And we saw really strong numbers increasing from 2023 to 2025 in our 4 major topic areas: HIV, nutrition, substance misuse prevention, and bullying prevention. You will see that these numbers aren't 100% because not every young person is enrolled in health class at a given time. But we're really proud of the work that Michelle Hopkinson and Katie Fiorello are doing at the high school, as well as adding in our teen mental health first aid program. Next slide. So this is really Principal Callanan's gig in terms of where we go with the data. There are a lot of ways that we can incorporate the data: school improvement planning, her work with staff, dissemination for parents, looking at planning, grant support, student engagement in our health classes, and then informing the work of the committees and planning groups that we're part of, whether it's Children's Cabinet that Jen is running, our Wellness Committee, our Health Department, the coalition work. So there's lots of great opportunities to use the data. We've never been a district that just, it sits on the shelf. We've always incorporated it into our work, and I think we'll continue to do that. And I know we have a short amount of time, so I think I'll stop there. You have a number of other slides that talk about ways to use the data for improvement, but I want to give you an opportunity to ask questions specifically about the survey data in case you want to. So with that.
Let's go questions. I know folks have questions.
I'll start, not
Sure.
so much with a question, but a thank you. Listen, we know that this was taken in the context of some pretty challenging stuff that happened down the street. I just want to thank the administration for the way in which you guys worked together to look at this study and find the right stuff for our community. It cut off a lot of the noise and got to the real important issues. And I think, the thoughtfulness, partnership, proactive nature of that approach, I think is bearing fruit just by looking at it overall. But also it just kind of drives the culture of the district overall as you go through this. You see that in the way this has come across. So Erica, thank you for being a huge part of that. Tom and Sarah and Jen and Jess and everybody else who's been a part of that. Thank you for doing that. I do, observationally, there's some really good trends here, right? Some of it makes, and I think that I don't want to, this question is going to sound weird because it sounds like it's going to undercut all the work you're doing. I don't mean to do that. But how much do we think this is a result of being that much further from COVID versus like real societal change amongst the cohorts over the last 2 years, from a 2-year difference?
I think particularly around the trusted adult support, we are ahead, even with the, kind of the rebounding from COVID piece, just in looking at some of our peer communities and looking at some of the national data. We don't have the national data set in the same way. CDC has withdrawn the data set, so we can't really look at like more recent data than 2021, which was in the height, you know what I mean? But I do think that we're, particularly in those protective factors area, we are a little bit stronger. And I think that is also the work that's been done to build in more support for students, to ask students how we can help and support them, the involvement of parents. But we have lots more work to do. We won't be sitting on our laurels.
Right, and I want to just say thank you to the school committee for your support and us carrying this forward. I do know that at the time when we were talking about it, it was very controversial. I strongly believe in the survey and the longitudinal work that and information that it provides us as leaders in a community. And this is really, for me, as a principal, I look at this data and figure out where are we doing well, and was that a result of an intervention or new support or curriculum that we put in place, and then where are areas where we still need to grow. There's a lot of things that we've done as a result of the data in 2023 that we're now seeing the fruits of that work, that it is working. And like Erica said, there are other areas that we still need to focus on. And I'd love to bend people's ear about the listening sessions we're doing over the past 2 years at some point as well, but I know we have other presentations tonight. But really hearing from students and getting student voice front and center, and then empowering them to act and move forward. They're pretty amazing. Our kids are amazing, and I think when they're empowered and they feel like they have a voice, they're less likely to participate in some of these risk-taking behaviors. And that's not the only reason. I think we've changed our approach to discipline, specifically to substance misuse, which we're seeing that as a positive trend, leaning more towards the education side of it rather than suspensions and things like that. And that's really with the help of the coalition as well. So I think that the data is good. There's a lot more data in the survey questions as well. This is just, believe it or not, an overview, but there's still a lot more for us to do.
Erica, you made the point about students overestimating the rate of substance use among their peers. Do we use this data with students to
Absolutely.
sort of debunk that? Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So every student in grade 9 and 11 that takes health class uses it as a project. So they get to choose. We give them an overview of the data, and they choose topic areas they're most interested in. And then in any of the presentations we're doing with students, we're talking a lot about this peer perception piece, because it happens in a lot of areas, not just in this area. It happens with bullying. It happens with all kinds of different experiences. It can be things like, if they come from a situation where something's happening in their family, they think everyone's kind of experiencing that. So it's a natural thing. We do it as adults too. But it is an area that we're talking to them about and having them think about, kind of using their own gut to guide them versus getting swayed.
Laura.
So you didn't get to the priorities for improvement slide, but one of the things that's noted again on there is the rising binge drinking rates. This is an anonymous survey, obviously.
Yeah.
So you said you identified 62 students as high risk, but you don't know who those students
Right.
are.
Yep.
Is there an action plan in place for addressing that specifically, given that you can't directly intervene necessarily with the
Right.
students who
Well,
might need it?
Yes, it's how we're handling things as we identify students who may be actively using. It is a proactive counseling with students who haven't gotten caught with something but do acknowledge they're using it. It also comes out of screening. We do a verbal screening in grade 10 and identify students who report binge drinking and then work on an action plan with them. Okay. And then in addition to the education, in addition to the work that Reading Police is doing, alcohol compliance operations so that we don't have local licensees selling or serving to minors, awareness about fake IDs, a lot of other things going on. And then also helping parents understand what's happening on Snapchat, that is how they're accessing large quantities of alcohol. And also talking to students about not just that they're accessing large quantities of alcohol, but they're also meeting an adult they do not know.
Yeah.
And so there's that piece too. So there's a lot going on. We talk about alcohol poisoning risks, how to identify if they need medical help, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's difficult, we know.
Yeah.
But then, you know, yeah. But there is an action plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Go ahead, Erin.
So not a question, just more of a comment that how much it means as a parent and as someone who cares about the children in this district. Like, everything that you're presenting is the result of work that has been happening and education that has been happening, but also how good it feels to have faith that I know you're not going to like take this and leave it. I know that education will continue to happen. And you know, what's happening in our health classes, all these conversations that are happening, it's amazing to see that the numbers are turning. You know, trusted adult in the beginning, I remember being so upset about that one. And that's such a testament, Jess, to like the culture that is happening here at the high school, and you know, even less vaping in the school is a testament to, you know, that was something I used to hear a lot about years ago. So it's more just an appreciation for, I know this is always hard to hear every time. It's never easy to sit with, but it's nice to feel some hope.
There's some good news.
And see the turning point. So thank you for the work you're doing and the work I know you're going to continue to do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erin. And I just want to say that we truly have a genuine partnership with the coalition and with the Reading Police Department. And they work so closely with us in the school, designing curriculum, but also meeting with students. And I think, you know, part of what I see as my role is empowering students, like I said, but also providing opportunities for students to coalesce and meet with people that they have common interests in. And one of the ways we do that is during having like club meetings during our flex blocks on one of the given days, which allows students to have commitments before and after school to participate, and that builds that relationship with a trusted adult. And that might be for students that can't participate in sports or don't want to have time to, can't do drama or band or something like that. And so I really think that my job is to set the stage for it, and the staff is really just amazing. From every faculty member that is part of this or just allows kids to come in their room and chat. During that unstructured time, so many positive things happen in addition to our school counseling curriculum. And we have a great support staff, you know, from our counselors, guidance counselors, adjustment counselors, social workers, school psychologists. People are really attuned to what is happening, I think, in the community, and then we use this data and give it back to them. We haven't done it yet because we wanted to present it to the school committee first, but we will use that with our staff so that they can see kind of the fruits of the work, but also the areas we still are committed to improving.
Tom, please.
One more observation as we go through this and a request. We're coming up on some interesting financial times as we go through some things here. And Jess, one of the things you just said just triggered in my head all the investments we've made in some of these staff positions over the last 2, 3, 4 years. So I think it might be useful for us to demonstrate a time series of some of this data more than just the last period.
Yep.
19, 21, 23, 25, and correlate investments we've made in staff that might tie to some of this. So we can see if we can see I mean, it's not just staff and the supportive nature, it's some of the education stuff that's going on, it's a lot of the other things too, but there is a correlation if we want to, you know, continue to keep some of those positions as we go forward, that we tie together some of the improvements that we've seen in some of these materials with staff members and their roles that are playing in here.
I can do that.
And maybe some general trends could be in the budget book for you next year or something like that.
That's a
if it
great,
helps- if
great
it's
point as
helpful.
well.
Yeah.
Great. Anything else? All right, thank you both very much, appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right, we're gonna, just bear with me just 1 minute, I have to take a quick diversion from our agenda, and then we'll come back to the executive functioning report. I held my report, because we were waiting for a guest to join us, Wanted to just quickly take a minute, one, to congratulate Jeffrey on your election, Aaron on your reelection. We haven't really had the opportunity to formally do this yet, given that our last meeting was a little bit abnormal, I would say. So congratulations to you both. Also, congratulations to Lori Hayes just for running just a fantastic, positive campaign. I think it was, the campaign all three of you ran was just really illustrative of how we have historically worked as a committee, and really appreciated that from all three of you. We did want to take a few minutes actually, to recognize Carla, who joined us straight from a Killam Butters meeting, making sure that all the people who are going to deal with the noise over the next few years understand what's going to happen there. So we haven't had the opportunity either just prior to the election or since to recognize her contributions. Carla, Aaron, and I all joined the committee in the same election back in 2020. We were elected on March 3rd. I think all of us got sworn in early the week of March 9th. And then on March 12th or so, we sent everybody home for 2 weeks to stop the spread. So we pretty immediately sort of jumped into the fire together to get through a really difficult, first year plus really on the committee. In our second year, there were some sort of, I'll say, ugly public events that I wish had been handled better, including by myself, of course. And I would say nobody held me more accountable than Carla. And I say that in all the positive ways. We disagreed on some pretty big stuff very publicly back then, and had some heated discussions. But, looking back, even those difficult moments were always handled very professionally, and just want to express my appreciation for that. I'll also say that for me, I don't know about for you, but for me, it feels like it was a million years ago. We've had the opportunity to serve as chair and vice chair. I should probably invite you up to join us, up here or something. We had the opportunity to serve as chair and vice chair together, several times since. And what folks, wouldn't have seen is how closely we were able to work together behind the scenes, just to navigate some tough situations that did pop up over the years. To talk through how we could approach challenging issues and situations in a way that respected all viewpoints, and really allowed the committee and the community to move together productively. So even though we've always had things we disagreed on, right up until our second to last vote, in fact, I've genuinely appreciated your partnership over the years. So I just want to acknowledge and recognize, how hard you work or have worked on behalf of the district and will continue to work. It cannot be overstated how much effort goes into leading the Killam School Building Committee. And forever grateful for your willingness to continue on in that role, for what is probably definitely another couple of intense years, even kind of in your retirement from this committee. So, as I said, when you announced here that you weren't going to be running again, just thank you for everything that you've done and will continue to do for this committee and for this community. We would normally present you with a chair. It's coming. It's not here yet, unfortunately. But I'll open the floor if anybody else wants to make any comments. Tom, go ahead.
I'll start by sharing, we promise it's not a rocking chair like we got Chuck, but although we didn't intentionally get
Thank you, because my kids would relentlessly tease
try not
me,
to
so
put you
thank you.
in that position too. So I'd just like to speak on behalf of our administration and our team too. Just a genuine and sincere thank you for all that you've done for our district. I think that as we all in our community, I feel are very proud of the work that we've done the last couple of years. I hope that you see yourself reflected in all those accomplishments and that progress and all the ways that behind the scenes and publicly you've been an integral part of all of that work. A couple of things that just stick out to us. One is the building project, which Sean mentioned. That will be your big, legacy. The community has no idea behind the scenes how much time Carla has put into this. I have spent many hours of meetings with Carla, and I have only been at a fraction of what the ones that she's been a part of, all the way through heated discussions around selecting, OPMs, to choosing furniture, to looking at, going to school tours, looking at building design. I mean, hundreds of hours in this process. In addition to her time, just her skill and her leadership in that process at a time when, our team needed strong leadership on that, we could not be where we were without you. So this building, as it goes up, I just think the entire community needs to know how much your leadership made this possible. And I think for our team, where you really helped us and where I thought you were, your role I felt was, felt most heavily on our team was during the most difficult, challenging situations. So one of the joys of our role is we get problems that we have to tackle. And I think the ones where Carla was involved, they usually had words before the problem like thorny, complex, charged, emotional, like those issues that come our way that are really, really, really hard. And I think that you always handled those with incredible class, professionalism, skill, pushed us to help find common ground, pushed us to know where we have to hold a strong line, pushed us to know where we have to listen to different perspectives. You were involved in so many of those conversations, in so many of those problems that help keep our district growing in the right direction. And then the other thing I'd like to share is just the level of time that you've poured into this district. You've met with so many of our team for coffee. You've met, I know they've said that, our principals. You've talked to teachers. You've talked, countless hours with me. You've just really poured your time and your care into this community, and we are by far so much better as a result. So just a sincere thank you for your leadership, and I hope everyone in the community knows that you have been such a critical part of all of our district's accomplishments and successes. So thank you.
Thank you.
Please, Erin.
So like Sean said, I feel a special bond with all of us, both that we started at the same time, but also what the six of us at that time went through with the pandemic, and then replacing the superintendent. And I just felt like we were sort of in the trenches together, and I will always appreciate all of us that navigated that together. But I especially want to say that I appreciate and I'm grateful for the ways that you've challenged me and pushed me and been able to engage in real, honest conversation that was not always easy at all. But still, I always knew that you were coming from a place of deep caring about the kids and about the community. And I think that was just a good centering for me when we didn't agree on something. I still knew that was your core, that your core was your passion for the students and for the district. And I think that there's an element to how this committee has operated that people can't possibly appreciate, but because they haven't been a part of some of these conversations. But I'm deeply grateful for what you brought, for what I know you're going to continue to bring to the Killam Project, and for the ways that you helped me, I think, be better in this role. So thank you.
Thank you.
I don't just say anything. They kind of said it all already, Carla, but, and you know how important you have been across the time. Going back to somewhat hesitantly saying this, having a glass of wine on my couch and me convincing you to run for school committee. We've been through, for lack of a better say, the fire, right? And to Sean and Aaron's point and Tom's point, you've been a huge part of redirecting this district. And you will be missed, but you're not going far. I think it's apropos of Tom to bring up thorny, challenging, fiery, whatever issues, because, of all the things I've done in this committee, I've generally avoided those, and you've hit them head on. And that, I think, is kind of our partnership to a degree, right? There's a lot of things I took care of and a lot of things that you took care of in a different way. It was kind of our two different blessings as we work through this together as members of this 6-member team. And I'm grateful for that too. And I will miss that the most of the next, 2 years of my time here. But the work that you've done collaboratively, I think, Aaron and I have been through it as chair and vice chair. You and Sean have been through it as chair and vice chair. And I think that's part of what makes this committee work, is the fact that we can balance each other relatively good, both publicly and privately, right? The private conversations one-on-one that people don't see that we have to have because we have to have them. I think you've been front and center in a lot of those. And I don't want anybody to get anything confused. We're not talking about open media law violations or anything else like that. We're just talking about, like, how do we work, right? I think people won't and don't appreciate it, but we do. Yeah, thank you for the time, the 6 years. Now it's going to be 2 more years on Killam at least, because you're not done. But, thank you for the time here and the partnership and collaboration.
Thank you.
I haven't worked with you for nearly as long, but I do want to say thank you that you were one of the first people, when I declared that I was running for school committee, you were one of the first people who reached out to me and said, let's sit down and have a cup of coffee. And your insights into the workings of the school committee and just your perspective on things related to district priorities and town school relationships and so forth were really insightful and helpful for me, and that was before I even got onto the committee. So I appreciate your interest in continuing to foster sort of people coming into this position and making sure that they're set up for success.
Thank you.
Sarah, I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, I just jump in and echo all of the things everybody's already said, Carla, and kind of joking but not joking, I think I'm excited for somebody to come before the school committee, whatever form that is, when Killam's done, and to nominate something to be named the Carla Nazaro really comfortable chair, or whatever it is, as part of just to honor your great from leadership you provided the district through this whole process. So.
Thank you, Sarah.
There will be a really comfortable chair for her at some point, right?
It's coming.
It's coming.
Shipping
I
delays.
don't know how comfortable it is.
I was like,
To be honest, I don't look that comfortable.
push it on it maybe, but. Thank you, everybody. I felt like our last meeting in our executive session, we kind of hit a different level. I don't know if the energy was different. As you're all talking, I realize how much I maybe was hard on a lot of you, friends, like a lot of you. And I appreciate the collaboration that we had. And I can even include Tom in that, right? I really appreciate the collaboration we had. Our first year was rough, like really rough. And I said to my husband, I'm like, we got to change because I can't do this for 2 more years. Like, you can't, if it's not working, you can't continue on like that. Like, you have to settle it. I feel like this committee has been a true example of how to collaborate. And I think that our focus has always been on students. And a lot of people in education say that, right? They say it's about the students, but their actions don't sometimes fit that. And I feel like our actions have fit that, and I think that our actions with our whole district is completely focused on students right now. I'm proud of the district. I've enjoyed working, I mean, with everybody that I've worked with. It's been fabulous. I feel good that I'm stepping down, stepping down half step and still staying with Killam, because I feel like I'll still be kind of involved a little bit. So I have a Killam update if you want it or not.
We are technically in our reports section, so we're happy to take it. Go for it.
I did, during the community meeting, I said, let me write a quick few notes, because I think you kind of forget. This morning, I actually attended the
Groundbreaking?
Thank you. The groundbreaking for Recalc.
Oh, cool.
And it was very exciting, and so it was nice to kind of see what happened and how exciting it's going to be for Killam. It was really, really special. I just came from the abutters meeting where we wanted to just give people an idea that they're going to start seeing fences up and they're going to start seeing things happen on the site. We have direct abutters that are being impacted in different ways, so we had those conversations too. We are in the bidding process right now, so we are waiting for bids back from filed sub-bidders, which are a bunch of identified subcontractors, that when we get those bids in at the beginning of May, we will have an idea of how we're going to trend for when our GCs, when our general contractors submit their bids. So that's exciting. And then May 19th is when we will get all of our bids in. And within 3 days, we'll be voting on a general contractor. So at the end of May, we won't start any visible things going on disruption-wise until school is out. This week, furniture coordination, we had that meeting canceled today, but just to coordinate all the finishing and colors and all that stuff. I attended we are bringing on board a tax consultant to see what kind of grants we can get back from the Inflation Reduction Act. So I attended a seminar today just to kind of hear all the workings of that. The big beautiful bill has changed things a little bit, but there are certain guidelines set for rebates with our geothermal wells and our solar. So we're going through that, and and we had a site tour, a contractor site tour last week too. That's basically all in a week. So it's a fun project. It's really exciting, and we have a really good team working with us. So it has really, truly been a complete pleasure working with all of you. I hope I didn't scar you too much. And I know that good things will continue to happen.
Well, thank you for everything. We will not make you come back to claim your chair. I can volunteer to deliver it. Yeah, we'll bring it to the house.
So far away, though.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Carla.
Great.
Thank you.
Can we take a picture?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Aw.
Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Well, it's not hard to feel tall next to me. My 14-year-old now has at least 2 inches on me, and I'm like, it's really not that big of an accomplishment.
All right. Now we are going to move on to our next agenda item. Who am I handing it off to? Dr. Stice? Who's teeing us up here?
Dr. Stice.
Dr. Stice, take us away.
Okay, does someone have access to the
I am
PowerPoint?
pulling them up as we speak here.
I'm gonna say, just pull up more chairs, yeah.
I kind of want to do jazz hands, but I'll say. New slide.
Just a sec.
Should I move over?
Might be even easier.
Come on over, get your
Yeah.
name tag, and then we can scoot around.
You don't have to move.
Oh, thank you. Give you a little more space, elbow room.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Oh,
Well,
that is not showing what I wanted to show. Hold on.
while we are pulling it up, I can just do a little brief introduction if that's helpful.
Please.
Okay, perfect. We are going to give you a brief summary of our executive functioning review. The full report was posted in the school committee packet. Also, it will be posted on our website, the Student Services website. We started this last year, it continued into this year, and we chose it because One, it was recommended in other reviews we've done, and also we heard from staff that it was a major concern for them. So we really wanted to invest some time and be thoughtful. So tonight, what you're going to hear is a very brief summary of the report itself, and then the results and next steps and what we have done. So next slide. We have quite a few members of our team here tonight. They are incredibly talented, and I just have to say I'm so honored and grateful to work with such an amazing and talented staff. As they present tonight, they will introduce themselves before they speak, but there are 3 members of the committee that aren't here that I just wanted to recognize. Alana Schoen, our preschool coordinator, because we really truly did a pre-K to 12 deep dive into our executive functioning, and Heather Valentine and Dr. Ramsey Merritt, who helped really do a lot of our observations with Danielle Betancourt, who's here. So it was nice to have outside people from Harvard help us do that work. So next slide. This is a super complex process, and Sarah was fabulous and came up with our scaffolded tree to make sure that everybody understood we're really working to do this. Next slide. And just to remind everybody that this is a legal mandate from state and federal law that we review a program or our instructional practices every year, and we have taken that very seriously. We are really transparent with the findings of the reports and then keep working on any of the recommendations. And we want to continue to do that. I did want to let you know that because this was technically last year's report, we are working on this year's, and we are looking at our reading practices. Tom, Sarah, and I are actually taking a class that's a full-year class on leading strategically, and we are anchoring all the work in our reading practices from our screeners all the way through students receiving specially designed instruction. And it's going to be a multi-year review so we can present what we've gotten so far, and then next year we're going to continue to do a little bit more because reading is very intensive. So that's just a little coming soon.
I think I'll jump in here. My name's Allie Sarno. I'm a school psychologist, and I work mostly here at the high school, but I've had the privilege of supporting this year across some different levels, including being part of the LIFT program, and also supporting at Killam. So I was at Killam today, and it's such a nice way to be able to see how these skills really do develop across different ages. So one of the pieces that we wanted to introduce is sort of the language that we're thinking about when we think about executive functioning. Part of what's interesting and I think really valuable about this work is that there's not the same level of agreement among professionals and researchers and educators with executive functioning as there is with like reading, for example, which is very well defined and researched, and there's state standards and there's really rigorous understanding of sort of at what developmental stage to expect certain skills to emerge. And executive functioning is well defined in the research, but it's really an area where there's a lot of misinformation. I think there's a lot of trendy information. I think there's a lot of sort of like, I don't want to say memes, but I think just sort of like conversation about how this shows up, and some of that is great information and some of it is flawed. And so I think, we've chosen these different areas of executive functioning. These are the places that it shows up really consistently in some of the measures that we use when we come from that school psychology lens. But also, we just felt like, again, this topic really is meaningful across all of those ages, from the very youngest all the way. It develops until your mid-30s, and so it's really a powerful area to look into. If you can go to the next slide, some of the sort of framing, and I think we heard about it, frankly, it was kind of nice to follow the youth survey data because I think it really shows how much childhood has changed. And so even from our own recollections of childhood, but also those who have older children who are high school aged, the students that are coming in really have lost a lot of that play and really have gained a lot more tech. And so that's shifted attention, and it's also overall, and it was really nice to see some of our data was showing a decrease in some of those mental health pieces, but in general, there's been noted increase in some of those mental health stressors, and so that's part of our framing as well in choosing this topic.
Excellent. Next slide, please. We're going to review the components of what we did on the next slide, where you can see we talked to staff, we talked to families, we reviewed our documents, including IEPs, and we did a lot of classroom observations. So it was really rigorous, looking at it through multi-lens. And one of the things we wanted to highlight for you is that we also vetted this with our district leadership team. They read through the report, they gave us feedback, we talked about what we were missing and what we need to add, and we also did it with the school psychologist and the team chair. So this has really been a holistic approach from the whole district. Next slide is just saying we're going to go through the results now, and we have another speaker.
Hi there, I'm Danielle Betancourt. I'm a doctoral student and a guest superintendent fellow here. I feel really grateful to be able to work and learn from such a gifted, intelligent, creative team. So I just want to say thank you for that. Here you'll see in the full results of the teacher survey are in the report. We just wanted to highlight some noteworthy findings. 96% of teachers rated executive functioning skills of students as a consistent challenge, which is something to be aware of. 70% of respondents reported that over half of students in classrooms exhibit difficulty in EF skills. And this slide, this graph kind of shows all the elements and teacher ratings for how students are demonstrating EF skills. And it does reveal that globally, a minority of students are regularly successful at each of the elements. And in particular, attentional control seems to be the most challenging, with teachers indicating that only 4% of their students regularly are successful applying this skill. Next slide. And so the next two slides show some of the findings that we observed during the 45 classroom observations that Heather Valentine and I conducted in the spring and the fall. Really, there was a wide variation explicitly in taught skills observed, with visual supports and transition routines most regularly demonstrated in the early years and the lower grades. The next slide. Really, this is just an overview to show that there are opportunities for us to find positive and leverage these effective practices across all grade levels.
Hi everyone, I'm Steph Lassise. I'm the special ed department head at the high school. I'll just talk a little bit about the next slide. The report identified several bright spots. At the secondary level, we wanted to kind of highlight the effort of the special ed staff to build students' executive functioning skills through the SMARTS curriculum, and really just help them build robust skills. Next slide, sorry.
Hi, I'm Allison Wright. I'm the Director of Special Education. So we wanted to next talk about a couple of the components of things that we reviewed as part of this process. The first thing on this slide is we looked at our students that are on IEPs and how often executive functioning skills are being included as specific goal areas in IEPs. So as you will see, almost half of our students on IEPs have an executive functioning goal or a goal that is addressing executive functioning skills. And that really brings us to question whether this is really a disability-related need, or is it more of an instructional need? You can go on to the next slide. And then another component is we really wanted to get our caregiver perspective on executive functioning, and I think one of the biggest components that came up from this is really a varying level of understanding from our caregivers, what executive functioning is and how that impacts their students. A couple areas that they're interested in learning more about is really about attention and net technology and that screen time that we've talked a lot about, as well as other tools that they could be using to support their students, and then highlighting that need for consistency across all of our schools when we're addressing these skills.
So if you go to the next slide, you'll see kind of a summary of our work, and we really want to be very clear about what we're doing. We are working very hard to establish a framework of what are the standards for each grade level that we should see with students. And as Ally was saying, there isn't something that exists out there, and if it does, there tend to be some flaws in it. So we're really making sure we're vetting all of the appropriate resources and coming up with something that's going to help all of our administrators and staff and families know what skills are appropriate for students. We also really want to align our systems. We talk a lot about the DCAP. Joshua Eaton has actually taken all of the DCAP and sorted all the executive functioning skills and accommodations to show how aligned some of our processes already are, but where it affects classroom implementation. And then we really want to monitor what we're doing and standardize our classroom observation tools so that we can go in and see, is it working, is it not working, what do we need to tweak, and how are we building our students' capacity? Because as Ally said, these are developing skills until your 30s. My 20-somethings love to tell me that when they're in trouble, but that it really is something we need to directly teach, and it needs to be directly taught in the general education setting. And then for students where it is disability related, we need to do some very targeted and direct instruction. And that's one of the things that Steph mentioned, that the high school having the SMARTS curriculum and doing that has really proven something very effective for our students. So on the next slide, you'll see the two places that we are really focusing based on our results is looking at our general ed expansion and making sure that we have that tier 1 access to executive functioning and social emotional learning across all of our grade levels, and that we're really deploying job embedded learning tailored to each appropriate grade level as well. And then for special education, we really want to monitor our goals and objectives. And as Allison mentioned, really making sure that if we're writing it in an IEP, it is because it is disability related, not a curriculum misstep that the students weren't taught it. And we're going to work on that because they go hand in hand. And general ed and special ed have been working very, very closely on this. On the next slide, you'll see that one of the things we're very committed to is working with our families and in the community. So we continue to work with the CPAC, who helps us to sponsor people like Lynn Lyons and Sarah Ward, and who give us strategies and how to implement that. One of the things we're very proud of in Reading is our relationships with our local preschools and to align strategies. And so we are always inviting them to all of our trainings that we do, because we know these students are going to be our kindergarten students, and we need to start building that capacity from the beginning. And really, we're trying very hard to make this a community-based ecosystem where families are able to get together and have these conversations and figure out how do we support our students going forward, just because the social landscape has changed so much, as we heard in the earlier report. So next slide, you'll just see that, as Ally said, there's a big industry gap here, and for us, it's really important. We've identified it, and we've been working on it, which I'm really proud of. Not only do we have a very talented team, we also have a very forward-thinking team that knew this was going to be an issue and have been working on it diligently, that a lot of communities are now coming to us to understand what we're doing around this. And really where we expect to get to as we do this work over the next couple of years is that all students are going to get what they need. And we are going to make sure that happens, and that we are really making sure that all of our students are well-functioning adults when they leave us. So where we wanted to take the next bit of our report is really sharing with you some of the things that we've done this year. Because not only do we do the review, we've also done a lot of work with our staff and our families. So that is the next section of our report, if you look at the next slide. Thank you.
Someone's excited out there. I'm Jackie Flusey, inclusion specialist. I do think I was strategically put last because I could talk for a really long time about executive functioning, but I won't. I spend a lot of my day doing this work as someone that gets to work in classrooms with teachers and kids. So really the work that we've done this year, we kind of, you can think about in 3 buckets, really developing educator capacity, so increasing the skills of our teachers, direct student work around their skills in executive functioning, and then community-based work. So I'll take us through a few of the items that we've worked on in each bucket, and feel free to ask questions if you want to talk more. Next slide. So if we think about our teachers, it was already mentioned, but one of the things that I started running last summer were book clubs on the anxious generation. So that's just kind of one voice out there, but I think it's really important. Allie talked a little bit about it, to understand why we're seeing a shift in the executive functioning skill level of our students. There are many factors, some Erica talked about, some Allie talked about. This was just one that I picked up myself, started reading. Some other teachers wanted to start with me. So as they shared, we've had over 100 educators join that book club. We did have Stoneham join in our last round, which was really exciting. And teachers in the last round asked if we could do another book to explore other factors. It's been really helpful for them, I think, to understand that why. We also do an in-house PDP course that I co-teach with one of the other inclusion specialists around executive functioning skills called Strategies for Student Success. And then recently, I participated in a training with Aspire through MGH, and it was like, as someone who does the work every day, I was learning so much, and it was so amazing and really tangible. I brought it back to our special ed leadership team, and I saw so many people who do the work with me having light bulb moments. So we actually had them last Friday come and work with our entire middle school special ed team, and they're coming again for a full day in May 19th. They'll be in the district all day. So partnering with them to do some work around that too. Keep going. Sorry, same slide twice. So for students, one of the things we did this year, I facilitate our Tier 1 SEL team at the elementary level, which is like a multidisciplinary team that implements our SEL curriculum. We created a brand new executive functioning unit. So we switched a little bit from like social and emotional skills to explicit executive functioning instruction, really around initiation and persistence, which are the 2 kind of core skills we have to get down first to be a learner. And we talk a lot about the learning space, and we adapted the Lynn Lyons approach that we use a lot, as well as some of the Jess Minahan work that we received earlier this year through an REF grant, right into the student learning. So those actually just started this April. I just got a text Wednesday morning, Barrows was doing it, about how great it went. So we're excited to see kind of how students take those and run with them. And then the other thing that we are piloting right now is Playful Learning Studios, which is a strategy from DESE's Playful Learning Institute. I was up in Beverly and got to see it. I was there for something else, but got to see it, and I was on the phone with Erin Birchill before I even got to my car. And I was like, can we do this? Let's do it. And so at the culmination of an ARC unit now, we spend a few days or a few blocks of literacy. It looks a lot like project-based learning, but a little bit more playful. We talk to the students really about the difference between free play and playful learning, and it gives students ability to kind of demonstrate their knowledge in a different way that's not traditional reading or writing. We just finished up our first pilot in Josh Wheaton first grade. We have another one at Killam third and Josh Wheaton kindergarten coming up, and it was really exciting. Students were really into it. Those are some of their actual things that they made. They were making dioramas, which I haven't seen in a really long time, but they were so into it, and it was really cool to see them engaging in some of those early EF skills, like planning and like, oh, this person's head is too big, we have to do it. It's, you know, the little kid work. Next slide. And then lastly, community. So one thing to just kind of highlight, we are partnering with the coalition, the rec department, and the public library this summer to do a Let Grow challenge. So Let Grow is a nonprofit organization that was co-founded by the author of The Anxious Generation, along with a few other people, one local to Boston. Newburyport did this last summer, and so Alyssa Gallegos, the principal of Barrows, had sent it to me, and I was like, let's do it. So we've been meeting with the coalition, meeting with the rec department. It'll work very similar to summer reading, but instead of reading, we're going to really encourage kids to get out into the community, do independent tasks, learn new skills without adult direction. And so it does really involve everyone. Our community service officers are getting briefed by Erica to know that kids are going to be out in the community. They'll have licenses to be independent. It's all age appropriate. It's like we're not sending any 4-year-olds into the store, but the 4-year-olds and 5-year-olds have lists like make your own snack. And then as it gets up, there's more independence involved. The coalition and the rec department, the library, and the fire department, kids can turn it in everywhere around town. So we're trying to get more kids into our community buildings. They can get prizes, and they also are going to get entered in to win raffles at the end of the year too, end of the summer. So we're really excited. That will launch like early May. We'll start publicizing that, and then in June we'll really do like our final push, and then all summer hopefully.
So with that, if you have any questions, and again, I'd just like to highlight what an amazing staff we have, that they are able to, one, be here and leave their little children and to come tonight, which we really appreciate, but also you can see the depth of their passion and their knowledge about this topic, and it really is proving so beneficial for our students and families.
I'll start. The slide about bright spots highlighted Coolidge's advisory approach that had 6 weeks, I think, of focus on executive functioning. One question is, do we have any data yet that that's working? Are we seeing, sort of an increase in teacher-reported sort of success in those skills? And then two, if it's working, what are we thinking about in terms of extending that to Parker? Anybody can jump in.
Go ahead, Jackie.
I've been meeting, I'm not, this is my 3rd year in this role, but my 1st year really starting to be able to be at the middle school a little bit more because of my 2 counterparts. And so I've been meeting with Coolidge's leadership team, which is leading some of that work, and they are like phenomenal. I don't have an answer for you about the data. I haven't, Sarah would probably know, I just don't know off the top of my head. I can tell you anecdotally, they really have been able to target skills that they see that have developed and skills that still aren't developing, and then we're able to dive into why. So we're using some of that Tier 1 instruction that we've created at the elementary level and adapting it for the middle school for urgent things that we feel like we don't want to wait until next year. So we've piloted lessons on attention and focus already in the last 2 to 3 months in 6th and 7th grade. I did have a 7th grade teacher tell me after, she was like, it was amazing. I didn't think it was going to work, and it worked. And really highlight how it worked not only for the students, but for herself as a teacher. And the way that we instruct has to be a little bit different around attention span, and how she found it easier on herself too. So we are doing some of that work like live time, and then we do have plans the Monday after break. I have teams from both middle schools that are coming to meet with me and the elementary school teams to kind of make an action plan for next year for their work, because we do know there are 2 different advisory structures, and we got to decide where we want to align and on what.
Great, thank you.
I don't have a question so much, but I just want to say I'm really excited about this work. I think that these skills are so foundational to success across academic disciplines, and so it's the work that we do in terms of thinking about math curricula and thinking about science curricula and thinking about reading curricula. this is underpinning everything. And so I'm really excited to hear that we are ahead of the curve in thinking proactively about how to boost these skills, given the data that we have about the lag in the current generations. So I just want to give plaudits to the proactive nature of this effort. And I think it has potential to yield some really, really valuable results.
Okay, Jeffrey.
As I read through the material that was in the packet, I was a little bit struck by, I don't know, there was data in there, but it wasn't hard data, and it was hard to compare that. There wasn't a comparison given, how are we doing relative to our peer communities, right? Is this something that we're ahead of the curve on some things? How far ahead of the curve, we're ahead of thinking about it, but we're not actually ahead in bringing our students up to speed on that. And, that some of the students struggle with this. Well, is that typical for them? And are we trying to get, obviously there's work to be done and it's foundational, but, where are we and how do we assess the urgency in terms of, if we need to send some more funding that way? I don't know if you can speak to some of that.
I think that's a great question. The problem is there isn't comparison data out there. Other districts aren't doing this work right now. And we've been leading with having our inclusion specialists, knowing that we were going to see this. We've gotten a lot of districts reaching out to us saying, how are you guys keeping this together? Because all we're seeing are the behaviors and the requests for out-of-district placements. So we are hoping now that we have data sets, we'll be able to compare ourselves to where we are, to where we're going, but also as other communities start to do this work, we'll be able to look at the trends. I do think one of the things our team identified, just in terms of the research, when you look at nationally what is happening, our students are where other students are nationally, spending more time on screens, less time playing, having difficulty with traditional school structures around sitting in their seats. All of that is very equitable at Reading versus the nation. We just don't have the comparison data to local districts at this point. But we'll keep looking for it and let you know.
Just a comment on that too. I think that can you go back to the slide that put in some of like the various components of, that make up executive functioning too, and I think Ally spoke to this too. I think it's really hard to say, even if we wanted to have comparisons across other districts, are we going off of teacher perception? Are we going off of student self-reporting? Are we going off of, is there certain outcomes we can agree that we should be seeing? Are we going off of parent perception? I think it would be really hard to find a sort of a consistent set of quantifiable metrics that we can all agree upon. So I think I agree with you that we want to try to be able to calibrate some of that work. I just don't think there's an easy way to say, like, how are we going to compare emotional control in Reading to Stoneham to Wakefield to nationally? I just think that's going to be a lot more difficult than, what percentage of our students are reading on grade level in math. I mean, on grade level in reading, right?
They're doing great reading on grade level in math.
I think that's a really good point to raise. I just think that it's really tricky.
And I also want to highlight, and I think Ally's been so instrumental in making sure everybody understands, people often think of executive functioning as like the backpack's a mess, the desk is a mess. But there's so many other pieces, as Tom just mentioned, around emotional control and being able to be flexible that are much harder to observe and quantify. And it's been really eye-opening for our staff to think, oh, it's not just that their papers are everywhere. There's so many different components to it.
Go ahead, Tom.
There's so many things spinning around in my head right now, so I'm not sure if I can get this out right. And Steph probably knows a little bit of where I'm going, because so does Ally probably. First of all, I want to say I love the fact that we're pushing this back to Tier 1.
Yeah.
Right? We need more and the obvious part of that many people don't realize or call out is the relationship and partnership between special education and regular education, right? So, that partnership is demonstrated day by day by the two of you over there in the corner, but even more so, by the greater staff as we look at this. Some of the numbers there about some of the staff not even having training in this space, that's a like red flag, like, okay, let's make sure that the staff know what they need to do. And, Jackie, the work you're doing, getting into classes and helping and to do that is phenomenal. So there's a lot here that I'm a big fan of, big fan. What I wonder about in some of the IEP numbers, if we were to say, okay, 49% of the IEPs have EF-related things in them, is that because the EF is a support on the real disability, or is that because the EF is representing as a disability? I don't know if I'm asking that question the right way.
Yeah.
I know my particular situation had pretty significant EF-related items on that particular case, but it wasn't his disability. It was just how it demonstrated in some ways. So when we looked at those numbers, did we say, okay, this is supporting the disability so they can make the progress, or did we say, oh, well, this means we have a tier 1 problem? So it seems like we said the latter, and I think there could be an interpretation that, yes, there is a tier 1 problem, but I also have a belief that there is distinct needs of EF to support other real, I don't want to say real disabilities, that sounds wrong, but measured disabilities that you can measure on other means, right?
Right.
So it's a kind of a weird question, but,
I think I
Ally, yeah.
understand what you're asking about, and I think both things are true.
Yeah.
For many students who we work with who have IEPs, first of all, executive functioning is not a disability category.
Right.
It's not a disability, but it's a hallmark of many students who have learning disabilities. It can be associated with specific learning disabilities in reading or math. It can be associated with anxiety and depression that could fall under an emotional impairment. It can be a part of ADHD, which would be possibly a health impairment. So there's a lot of students with IEPs for whom executive functioning impairments show up, and we can measure, and we have rating scales, and that's where some of these terms come from. And I think school psychologists are a little protective over understanding that it is individualized and that an individual person's trajectory of earning the competencies in these skills can deviate from their peers in a meaningful way that needs individual support. And so that's where on a team that's talking about a plan, you often see executive functioning that's in the conversation, rightfully so. But when we see that so many teachers are seeing the need in their classrooms, and it shows up academically, it shows up socially, it shows up at home, and we're hearing about situations at home and in the community, and when it's so pervasive across domains, then we have to do better tier 1. It doesn't mean we will not address tier 3, but I think that's where this work is really powerful and interesting, and we're protective over sort of each individual student's right to have that conversation be personalized, but at the same time, we need to do a better job for everybody. And so teacher training and work to standardize some of the pieces that are well-researched, that are meaningful, having agendas posted, having routines that are reinforced. These are things that I know are really working well across the district, and there is a lot of evidence to support that that's meaningful, and that's where some of that tier 1 work needs to continue.
Yeah, I think it's phenomenal that we're going to make progress in the tier 1 space, right? I think it's going to help raise the bar for all of our kids, across the board. And I'm a big fan of what we're trying to get done here. You say when we get to our 30s, we study. I could probably use some help.
It's too late now, Tom. You are who you are now.
I'm not an old dog yet. I can learn new tricks. So I think there's a lot here. I also want to applaud the Let Grow idea out there. And I think what we need to figure out is, and I know you said you're gonna put things out in May and then push hard in June. Like, we really need to like community surge that, right?
Yes.
Not just RPS. Like, the library already has things that people have around town that is like, come visit my home. We should have people with let grow signs across the district as well. Right, we need to do something else that is even more like in your face, like what is that let grow thing, right? It needs a lot more proactive marketing, because this sort of independent stuff is exactly what many of our kids need to do to get out of the house, to get out of the basement, to get away from the video screen, you know, apparently away from Snapchat, right? So I think, you know, the more we can do to really proactively and aggressively market let grow. Don't just leave it in principal newsletters, I guess is what I'm saying to the administration, right? I'm sure you have some plans already there.
We do. It's one of the things the Children's Cabinet is working on. And so if there are people out there that have a special interest in either making yard signs, which we've never talked about, which is a wonderful idea, and/or we need some parents to help us find some raffle items. We have some businesses that may be willing to donate, but we need some help calling to get that. We'd love for people to reach out to us and join the committee and help support the work, because it is really essential.
Yeah, the RPL is doing that other thing, so maybe there's something there we can figure out funding. Funding is an issue, but those signs are $5, $10 a thing, and people can come pick them up or even pay for them themselves or whatever. And that, you know, well, if there's a copyrighted let grow thing or whatever, we can get permission to put on the side or whatever for Reading's let grow or something like that, that would probably be like just pop up everywhere.
Yeah, it's
right?
me. I'm the school rep for that. So we can talk about it. We do partner with Let Grow. I meet with them for our district, so we have access to all of their like materials that we can use publicly. They know that we're a part of it. Like, we're listed as one of their districts because we do use their sources. And the library is doing their passport program to upstairs and downstairs. This program is being run out of the main floor, not the children's floor. So it's really like family oriented for the library side. But like I said, the coalition and the rec department are actually funding a lot of it. So I'm sure they'd be happy to help.
Yeah, it's very, very exciting.
Yeah, I support everything Tom just said. I also generally the theme about sort of caregiver and family engagement and support in this. I mean, you all know this, but parents need help with this. I mean, the cell phone thing, like, I'll share my experience. My oldest just turned 13. My wife and I were adamant we were going to wait till 8th grade, and we folded and got our phone just here at the end of 7th grade, you know, towards the end of 7th grade. So we did better than almost everybody else, but you know, still didn't make it to 8th grade. And it became this thing where she was like literally the last kid we knew of that didn't have a phone, and you know, she like the social isolation of being an iPad kid was, you know, felt worse to us than the risk of her getting a phone, you know, a little bit earlier than we wanted to. So collectively, we need help with this. And, you know, it's not your job to do that, but it just, you know.
I do think, though, Jackie, do you want to give?
Right, I live here. I have a son at Rise. I have a son at Joshua Eaton. We play outside a lot. So like, I live here and I work here. So like, I'm in it from all lenses. I wear the hat kind of in the trenches with everyone, and so I do feel like super passionate about it. We were at the parent book club for Anxious Generation, just able to make some really nice connections. There was a 5th grade mom from Barrows who doesn't want to get her daughter a phone, but she's feeling like she's kind of on an island. She didn't really know anyone else that wasn't, and she was able to connect with 2 7th grade moms at Parker who have not done it. They were able to meet each other, exchange contact information, and kind of just like grow bigger cohorts that can do that. So I don't know what you were going to say about me, but yeah, we're working really hard on it and I can kind of play both lenses a little bit and try to get in there, but
I was just going to say, tell the story of the parents that are connecting, because I do think it's little pockets of what we're hearing is families saying, and when we did our listening sessions, it's super important when their kids come home and say, everybody has one, and you're able to say, actually, these 5 kids don't. Why don't we call them? And you can have a phone-free play date. And a lot of families said that to us, like they need to be connected to other families so they can combat that everybody does this thing. And so we'll continue to do that work.
We just got done talking about perception bias in other places.
Yeah.
Oh, believe me, we polled a lot of parents to try to find anybody who didn't. And every time she told us, this person just got one, we validated that. So it was really hard to find anybody that we knew at Coolidge who hadn't gotten their kid a phone at this point. So
I know, and once you get your older one, Sean, the younger one is going to want it sooner.
I will say my middle one is sort of like, I don't like the way she is with her phone. I don't want one. So, she's
My younger
Yeah.
one is the same, and I'm like, you're going to be such a hypocrite in a couple of years.
Yeah. So, anyway, anything else on this topic? Awesome. Thank you all so much. It's such important work. Really appreciate it. All right. Find my window and figure out what we're supposed to be doing next here.
Last day of school.
Last day of school, that's right. So our last day of school, which was scheduled optimistically to be June 15th, we added 4 snow days, so June 22nd is where that leaves us. So it's pretty much the most unfortunate possible calendaring situation where our last day of school will be 2.5 hours or so on a Monday after a 3-day holiday weekend.
Nobody will show up.
But such is the price of meeting 180 days compliance.
Sorry.
So
Tried our best.
No, there's not, yes.
Is it a days or is it an hours? Can we squeeze in 2.5
It's
hours?
days.
Part of me wonders if we polled the community on whether they'd rather have a Saturday at some point, like if they might prefer it, but that ship has probably sailed at this point, so.
Who's going to teach them on a Saturday?
The other half of it. We could probably find a way to work that out with the RCTV.
Nobody shows up on a Saturday, no matter what.
Yeah, that's fair. So we'll take a motion, well, let's take a motion first. Anybody can feel free to make one.
Motion to amend the 2025-26 calendar to reflect June 22nd as the last day of school.
That sounds good to me. Is there a second?
Second.
I will give that to Jeffrey.
Give it to Jeffrey.
Yeah, there you go. I think that's probably your first time on the board, so congratulations.
Can I be picky?
We can.
We're not amending the calendar, we're
We're
approving June
approving.
22nd as the last day of school.
Aaron, would you accept that as a friendly amendment?
I would, yes. I'm not going to fight him over that.
Excellent. All right, any further discussion on the last day of school, moving to June 22nd? We're being approved as June 22nd. Okay, we'll move to the vote. Roll call, Sarah?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Yes.
And Sean, yes. Okay. Next item up for business here is appointing a vice chair to get us to our reorg in June. So what I'll do here is open the floor for any nominations, and we'll go from there. So is there anybody is welcome to self-nominate. Don't expect this to be a heavy burden. It's, unless I get hit by a bus or something.
Ouch.
Whatever. Or unless I win the lottery and move to Europe, I don't know, whatever. If I win the lottery, I'm just buying 3 of my neighbors' houses and building a compound, so I'll still be here. Or I can just nominate somebody on my own. How about that?
I mean, I would do it if you need someone. I don't know if someone wants to
Since
do
you're
it.
all falling all over yourselves, I'll nominate Aaron as vice chair. Second from Jeffrey. Any other nominations?
I'm going to nominate somebody different. Whether they accept it or not is, and it's up to them. But I just think it's in our best interest to develop depth of people who've done it, right? So I'm going to nominate Laura as vice chair. So we build up other people that have been in the process of being chair and vice chair. if we'll.
I will accept.
So Laura, why don't you second that nomination then?
Second my own nomination?
There you go, yeah.
All right, sure, I second my own
Okay.
nomination.
Is there any additional nominations? Okay, either of you want to have anything you want to say before I start going to a vote?
Can I back out?
You don't need to formally back out, but we'll just take votes for Laura first. How about that? Okay. All right, so let's move to the vote.
Alphabetical by last name.
There you go, alphabetical by last name. We'll move to the vote. Laura, to appoint Laura as vice chair until our next reorg. Sarah?
Yeah.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Yes.
Sean, yes. All right, that was drama-free. So that carries 6-0. We will not take a vote on Aaron. All right, last order of business here is a discussion on policy G something D, GBD? Is it GBD? Who's got it in front of them? Okay, GBD. So Jeffrey raised this one, I think probably a couple weeks before you were elected. There's a policy which essentially is intended to ensure that, at least as I read it, is essentially intended to ensure that we don't sort of show up unannounced and do inspections of the schools, and we, kind of collaborate and coordinate with the superintendent, any visits that we might do in sort of an official capacity. That policy does include sort of an exception for anything we might do in our role as parents, or caregivers for students in the district. You're certainly not restricted or limited in your ability to go into the school and be involved in the way any other parent would. Dr. Corum, Jeffrey has a case where, he's doesn't have kids currently in the district, but is serving in probably multiple volunteer capacities at this point. Yeah. Probably it's worth some clarification about, how we expect that policy to apply to those activities. I think, and I can pull the policy up, unless, Tom, you've got it in front of you already.
But it's just not super, I'll increase the size and then share it in a second.
Yeah, Tom will share the policy here. I think there's probably a relatively straightforward amendment there. What I really wanted to do tonight is just sort of take the pulse of the committee on being supportive of, coming back with some language at our next meeting, and we'll signal a one-meeting vote on this one. I don't think it requires, unless others feel differently, I don't think it requires a full policy subcommittee discussion and debate, but we can share what the current policy is, and then, take the pulse of the committee and signal that we'll, at one of our upcoming meetings, potentially revisit this one and do a quick amendment. And so, Tom, if you just scroll, just that visits to schools section, if you could just zoom in on that part as much as possible. Where it says, note, nothing in the above policy is meant to limit or replace a member's access to school to which his or her children attends. In such case, the member shall enjoy all the rights and privileges as a parent of a child who attends the school. Go ahead.
That's the gray, right?
That's-
Jeffrey doesn't have a child who attends
that's the
school,
gray.
but
So
Jeffrey should be able to volunteer.
Yeah, so the thinking would be we amend that to include some language around, also extends to the rights to volunteer in the same capacity as any community member would. Something to that effect. So we can work on some language, before our next meeting, but, again, just wanted to take the committee's pulse on whether anybody has any initial reaction to that kind of amendment, number one, and number two, whether anybody sees it as sort of significant enough that we would want to refer it to the policy subcommittee versus a, one-meeting review.
So I was talking to Dr. M about this morning, and I thought this was coming up in a completely different reason before it was added to the packet. So I'm going to ask that we do put it to the policy subcommittee, because I think there is some more substantial, we have to have a meeting. There's some more substantial changes, and I think in the meantime, we can say, yeah, Jeffrey, I don't think any of us have an objection with your particular use case, right? But I think what I was thinking about when this came up and I saw it come up was the the comments that were made during our interview process. And even though Dr. Turner has said he doesn't want to change certain things, I think there's still a tone and tenor of following our own policies that we should do to meet the actual practice that we're doing. So update the policy to adjust the practice. And it's probably a significantly different change. Some superintendents, including our previous superintendent, use this very much as a gatekeeping policy. Right? Very aggressively as a gatekeeping policy. And I don't think any of us want that tone to carry forward. And in fact, some of the staff have told me they don't want that tone to carry forward. So I think what my intent or my suggestion here is to say that the other 5 of us and the administration are comfortable with Jeffrey's particular use case. And we then come back and look at this and say, how do we match GBD to meet Reading's practice of what we're doing in the right tenor and tone of how we do it.
Yeah, I would definitely agree that what you're referring to is a policy subcommittee discussion. That's a very substantive change and will require some real thought versus drafting on the floor here. So, or drafting or editing on the floor here. So I agree with that. I don't know, is everybody comfortable that we hold the sort of visits to schools language and, you know, just sort of have a verbal understanding amongst us and Dr. Milichewski that we're not concerned with any of your, you know, your volunteer activities? Is everyone good with that for now?
I think the superintendent deserves the right to administer lunch and recess duty if there's inspection. So if you come for an inspection, welcome aboard, you can come to lunch and recess duty. So let's make that known for the community. But no,
I've done lunch duty.
You would do it, you would do it. You will do it. So no, I think we're very comfortable with Jeffrey's volunteerism in the schools and are fully supportive of that and appreciate that.
Okay.
Yep.
So we'll do that, then we'll refer that to policy subcommittee.
I have 9 others we need to talk about, so you might need to get to work.
Tell me when you want.
Jeffrey, we may have just found your liaison assignment.
I'm certainly interested in seeing where this policy goes. Let me know when this meeting is. So.
It will be publicly posted, as any and all.
Jeffrey did come to the 7 a.m. policy
There's
subcommittee.
only 2 of us wrong it right now, Jeffrey, so.
All right.
Yeah, you were there.
All right, so that resolves that for this evening. I believe that was our last order of business. Motion to adjourn.
Right in there with that.
Is there a
Jumping
second?
in there, second.
Seconded by Aaron. Roll call. Sarah?
Yes.
Laura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Jeffrey?
Yes.
And Sean, yes. We are adjourned. Thanks, everyone.